Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at this right here. This is the high-grade Build Divers or Gundam 00 Sky Mobius. Once again, this is from Gundam Build Divers. This time around, it's from Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise. This is the fourth variant of this mobile suit that we have seen released so far, and as you can see from the box there, this is packing in a whole lot of stuff. This may just be the ultimate Gundam 00 Sky right here. But anyway, as usual, if you do want one of these of your own, there is a link down there in the description, and you can get yours through HobbyLink Japan. Now here we go. So anyway, there is the high-grade Gundam 00 Sky Mobius out of the box, just snapped together. And there are two things wrong with this that I did during that time-lapse. So if you can spot them now, let me know in the comments before I even mention what is wrong with it. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Well, the first thing is I put the wrong blade antenna on him, or V-fin if you prefer. This is meant to be in blue, but this white looks really cool. That, of course, is the standard Gundam 00 Sky V-fin right there, so let's get that swapped out quickly to the actual Moebius version, which is a somewhat thicker variant than what we just saw. It's a little bit more chunky and a little bit more square, not as pointy and not as delicate as the previous variant. The other screw-up is a weird one. It's this right here. I've super widened the front skirting armor there to kind of look like a big old weird mustache. Okay, so let's get that swapped out for the way it's actually meant to be, and there we go. So there is what it should look like, so let's start this again. So anyway, there is the Gundam 00 Sky Mobius out of the box, snapped together correctly with its blue V-fin and its not wide crotch. And all I can say is I adore the look of the 00 Sky, and this color to me is even better. Kind of brings all the shoulder armor and everything together with the design of the actual Gundam, making it look like a Gundam with giant massive shoulders that match with those thick thighs and big legs. This is one powerful, awesome looking Gundam right here. So of course this is not the first time we've seen the Gundam 00 Sky, and there is the generic first variant. Of course, if you want to see more about this particular mobile suit, there is a full review of this as well as the higher than sky phase version on the channel here. But this was a pretty good Gundam. It did get a little bit looser over time, and there's one thing I would say not to do with this kit that I usually say to do with all kits, and that is to snap these two pieces apart on the runner. So the front skirting armors usually come connected on the runner, so when you move up one, they both move up. And you can snip them apart so they can move independently, but that has made them very loose on this right here. I do actually have them tacked in. But yeah, no matter the variant, if you snip these off, they will just keep falling off, so you're better off leaving them connected. Besides the obvious aspect, which is the color difference between the two, there is a lot of physical differences as well. Like I mentioned, now we have that thick version of the V-fin. The standard 00 Sky has that thinner, sharper variant. That almost bracer style armor on the forearms has now been extended, only has one connection point instead of 3 this time around. The exact same thing can be said about the shin armor, once again a little bit bigger and just one hole on the Moebius. The feet have also been given a redesign. They're not as blocky as they were before. We've got 2 pointed toes, and the back of the foot is in a slightly different color, which is, well, I was about to say white, but as you've probably noticed by now, this is more of an off-white. So all of those segments which were blue on the standard 00 Sky are now in a somewhat beigey off-white on on the Moebius. And just in case you are curious, all of these parts do come on the B runner from the 00 Sky, just in the Moebius colors. So if you want to make a standard 00 Sky in the Moebius colors, then you can do that. Also, all the leftover 00 parts are in here, just like we would have seen before with the 00 Sky. Of course, this isn't the only variant of 00 Sky in existence. We also have these two as well. This one right here is the 00 Sky Higher Than Sky phase, which is a pearlescent white with a light baby blue and some neon colors. The one over here then is the Trans Am version that comes with the heavy weapon system. This of course is in a pearlescent Trans Am color scheme, which is pinks and purples with a metallic finish. However, both of these kits are just color variants of the standard 00 Sky. There is no parts variants besides some included weapons and effect parts. So anyway, there's that full 360-degree spin of the 00 Sky Mobius without any of its equipment attached. Like I've mentioned already, I really do like the overall design of the 00 Sky. It takes the 00, adds a whole lot of chunk, and those big shoulders that just flare up to eternity. Everything is pretty much the same besides the couple of changed parts that I mentioned earlier on, and these all look quite good. Honestly, I do adore this particular color scheme because it all gels together so well. And if you already really like the Gundam 00 Sky but not necessarily the color scheme, and I've just noticed it's missing that part from the middle of its antenna, so be careful with that. It seems to be a little bit on the loose side. Just get that back in there. There we go. Back in. So now moving on to the accessories, and here's the high-grade Gundam 00 Sky Mobius with absolutely everything that it comes with. So this comes with a lot of things. So let's move what is new with this out of the way for now so we can see everything we would have seen before in other reviews. These two, and move these in. As for what we've seen before that comes in here, we've got the beam sabers, beam rifle, buster sword, long rifle, effect parts, but this time they're in shiny sparkly green, a hand, and a backpack adapter. As for the beam sabers, just like we would have seen with any version of the 00 Sky, these do require the lower sections of the front skirting armor. They just pop on like so, then they pop into the hands, and that right there is what they look like equipped. They hold in okay, but sometimes it can be hard to get them into the hands past that little bit of skirting armor. Next up then, here we've got the standard Gundam 00 Diver beam rifle. Exactly the same as what we would have seen before with that awesome handle up top. Equipping it is super simple. We've got a side-to-side moving handle midway up its length. We have this flip out little tab, which is for connecting that onto the butt flap like so. Next up then, we've got the fold out buster sword, same as before, so it's got the same rotating in the hand sort of issue that would have had. If you try to put it in a position and let go, it will just rotate in the hand. Also, there is no beam effect for using with the sword, which is a little bit odd. I guess it just didn't include the runner. Just like before, when this is not in use, it can be attached around to the back of that GN drive section, just like that right there. Next up in here then is the long rifle. Once again, this flips out just like the buster sword, can be attached onto the back of the GN drive section just like the buster sword. This can swing forward, and there is a quick example of what it looks like attached into the hand. As for the alternate hand, this is simple. Pop that off, pop it on, and this of course is a widespread, dynamic, posed hand. As for those crazy awesome nuclear green effect parts with sparkles, the Moebius drive units up in the shoulder use the big green ones by opening up the GN drive section, popping them in like so, simple as. As for the arm, it's just a peg into a hole like this. As for the leg, it's just a peg into a hole just like this as well, and there's also a drop down mechanism inside of the legs to get a little bit more range, and a bit of a drop down choice of pegs in the arm, once again to get a little bit more range. So there's a quick example of what the Gundam 00 Sky Mobius looks like with all of those effect parts attached. These look crazy, they're eye-catching, that green is off the charts awesome, and when you get in closer you've got all of those sparkles giving that GN particle kind of vibe. Pretty cool. So now moving on to what is new for this kit, and that is the pair of armed wing binders and a pair of beam rifles. First up, let's start off with the armed wing binders. So these are a pair of multi-use weapons that can be attached as either a beam rifle like you're seeing right here, basically a pair of big honking beam rifles with a blue bit on the bottom. If that isn't enough beam rifle for you, you can use one of the brand new style beam rifles, then attach them down below like so. These then combine together into a what I can only describe as bigger beam rifle combination, but the wrists are a little too weak to hold them up. Next up, by flipping the handle into the lengthwise position, we now end up with a different variant, which is the sword variant. And by popping in that pink effect part, then we've got what is known as the Moebius Arendite. Basically a big old pair of badass beam swords. And I will mention that the wrists don't seem to be having any issue with these whatsoever, unlike when they were attached onto the beam rifle. Just like we saw with the previous equipment for the 00 Sky, these can be attached up onto the big old shoulders with the GN drives, putting the wing into the armed wing binders. So now that they are attached on there, this particular mobile suit does have 3 different form changes. So the first one is the standard version right here, which is the Gundam 00 Sky Mobius. So this is the way it's been through the entire review, just now with those armed wing binders attached. So next up then we've got this one, which is known as the lash position, which is the speed orientated position. So basically its center of gravity is lowered, its boosters are pointing backwards, so it's ready to go a whole lot faster. In order to do this, you just drop down the backpack, bring the wings forward slightly, and drop down the sky bracers on its arms. That is it, but it does change the overall look of this mobile suit quite a lot. As for the final position, this is the high mat full burst, and if you think this looks exactly like the first position, well, you wouldn't be all that wrong, because it's pretty much the same thing, except in order to do this, what you do is you drop down the top of the armed wing binder and bring up the bottom section of it. That is it, otherwise it's 100% identical to the Gundam 00 Sky Mobius form. Also, I almost forgot this, but we can attach the newer beam rifles, the pair that we have, onto the butt flap like this, but the most interesting thing is the second one just sandwiches on top of the first one like so. But that does make me curious, because we do have 3 beam rifles in here. Can this last one also attach in there? Yeah, you can have 3 beam rifles attached to the butt of the 00 Sky Mobius, and that's crazy. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and the last few variants of the 00 Sky that I reviewed, which was the standard version, the higher than Sky Face, and the Trans Am version, were all gold tier. They just about scraped gold tier, and that was by 2 years ago's standards, that this one right here technically should be silver by today's. But it does come with so much in the box, so much options, so much effect parts, that this really is a good all-rounder kit. So because of all of that and the awesome color, it stays at gold. You may actually have noticed that I did skip the articulation in this review, and that is because it is 100% the same as the 00 Sky. So if you want to see the articulation in full, just check out that video. But like I mentioned, if you want a kit that packs in a whole lot of options, it's got the standard 00's weapons. Sure, it is missing one of the effect parts for the Buster Sword, but you may have one of those knocking around. It also has the effect parts that came with the Higher Than Sky phase, but now in a nicer, crazier green, and it has its own new super variable, super modular weapons. The only thing I will say about this kit is to take a little extra time while building it, maybe paint it up, or top coat it, or something to tighten up the joints, because they do age a little bit on the poorly side. Anyway though, if you do want one of your own, there is a link down there in the description. You can get yours at Hobby Link Japan, and I will see you next time.